It's the end of an era here. This is the last Tecmo Theater game. Tecmo Theater was a label that Tecmo applied to their cinematic games, and it was used for 4 of them. Ninja Ryukenden 1 and 2, and Captain Tsubasa 1 and 2. It's not the end of this style of game for Tecmo, they just dropped the branding. Captain Tsubasa is a wildly popular comic and cartoon series about a young guy who's good at soccer. Pretty much the only place on Earth where Captain Tsubasa isn't popular is the United States. As the title suggests, we've already seen one Captain Tsubasa game on the Famicom. It's easily the best soccer game on the system so far, and I think I can make a good case that it's the best sports game. Captain Tsubasa II doesn't change things up much. If you played the first game, the system for the second game is virtually identical, though the second game lacks the adventure game interlude that the first one had. When you start a match, you can do a strategy session with your team, get a password, check out your team's stats, and choose a formation. And then it's off to a kickoff for the real meat of the game. During the game, you're not controlling the cinematic action at the top, you're really watching the mini-map of the pitch. If the ball is in your team's possession, then you're steering that around. Otherwise, you're controlling the number that's flashing blue and white. When you're running around with the ball, you can press B to pause the action and then start a play. This also occurs when you're confronted by a player on the opposing team. Each direction on the D-pad corresponds to something that you can do. Left for pass, up to continue dribbling, right to shoot. Some characters, like Tsubasa, have multiple shots or passes that they can use. When you're the one confronting someone who has possession of the ball, then you can choose to block a pass, tackle, or try to block their movement. It's important to keep in mind that these will not always be successful. Every character has offensive and defensive stats, as well as stamina that gets used up while they play. On your team, Tsubasa has stats that are twice as high as any other character. So a good strategy is to get the ball to him and let him do it. Or it would be, except that characters also level up. After the match is over, win or lose, characters can level up depending on how many things they did during the match. The biggest visible change for Captain Tsubasa II is that the action tends to be a lot more dynamic. In the first game, you moved up and down the field, you got confronted by huge crowds of people, and that was really it. Here, it's rare for more than one player to converge on the ball, and it's really common for plays to go on for a while. Passing the ball around, trying to line up a good shot, and making several attempts to get the ball in the net. It gives Captain Tsubasa II a more exciting feel. The other major change is that when you lose, it's not a total game over. Instead, you level up and go back one match. You'll probably have to do this a few times as you start out, since the second team can kick pretty hard. That brings me to my one complaint about Captain Tsubasa II. Your team wears white. The first team that you play against wears light gray. There's one other major addition to Captain Tsubasa II, and that's penalties. Though there's no concept of a red or yellow card. Instead, players who have had a foul committed against them just get control of the ball, and the rest of the players shuffle back to default positions. The ball can also go offsides now, and then you can choose who you're going to have kick the ball back in. This is the final Captain Tsubasa game for the Famicom, and it was extremely popular in Japan. From here on, the series moves over to the Super Famicom, and at least the next 2 games continue the same style of play. For my own opinion, Captain Tsubasa II is Captain Tsubasa I, only better. It's a really enjoyable soccer game that gives you more of an impression of the sport rather than the actual thing. But since the Famicom can't really simulate a soccer match very well, that brings it closer than any other soccer game so far. Even if you don't like or aren't familiar with the original source material, this one's a pretty good game.